NRA-TV with Grant Stinchfield.
Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This weekend in Chicago, 7 people were murdered and at least 25 people shot and wounded. This in a city where the good people have nearly all but been disarmed. We just got back from the NRA Carry Guard Expo in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is only a 90-minute drive from Chicago. One of the reasons the NRA chose Milwaukee was its proximity to Chicago. The people in that city need to see just what's out there when it comes to personal protection. It is our duty to inform the uninformed about what they can do and how they can train to protect themselves and their families. Many of the visitors did come from Chicago, and we were happy to have them. The one invited to Chicagoan that didn't show up, though, was Mayor Rahm Emanuel. I wanted him to account for his anti-gun, pro-criminal policies. We waited, but he never showed. Mayor Emanuel, you should be ashamed of yourself. This was a self-defense conference. I was giving you a chance to defend yourself. You chose to ignore us, and in turn, ignore every law-abiding citizen in your city who wants a reprieve from the crime and the gun control. We also invited the mayor to the Greater Missionary Baptist Church to hear Rhonda Ezell speak on Sunday. She's the founder of the group Chicago Guns Matter. Well, we sent veteran Army Ranger and Frontlines correspondent Chuck Holton into Chicago. He got an exclusive look at what the people in that community deal with on a daily basis.
We hear a lot of firearms going off, and we hear a lot of police, and there's death every week in this area.
Drugs, violence, a lot of shootings, a lot of killings, a lot of drive-bys. This is every day. It is gang violence. It is not gun violence. It's gang violence. They need to call it exactly what it is, because that's what we're dealing with here in the city of Chicago.
And back in 2012, my son was a victim of gun violence during a robbery attempt. He was shot in his leg as he ran away.
This neighborhood in South Chicago is now literally one of the most dangerous places on the planet. Here's what I mean by that. If you take Caracas, Venezuela, they have 120 murders for every 100,000 residents. That makes them the most dangerous city in the world for homicides. This neighborhood I'm driving through right now, Englewood in South Chicago, has 175 murders for every 100,000 residents. That means that it's literally more dangerous here than in Baghdad. And it's no wonder that the residents of this city are clamoring for the ability to protect themselves. And so we went and talked to Rhonda Ezell, a resident of South Chicago, who has been fighting City Hall on this subject and winning.
The mayor of the city of Chicago has no plans on doing anything for the law-abiding citizens as far as them getting training and education in the safety use of firearms. What we're here to do at Chicago Guns Matter is to educate the people, and we want to make sure that they're able to go somewhere to get training, because the city has nothing available for them.
What makes them think that their life is more important than yours and mine? Our loved ones love us just as much as theirs love them. You have a right to protect yourself and your loved ones. Chicago Guns Matter is going to make sure you understand that.
Concealed carry training program, because of the violence that we have and we see around in this city of churches being robbed. So I form a team of security for our own church and safety of our people at the church when they're here and when they're at home.
During that class, we learn gun safety. We learn how to use a gun. We learn how to clean a gun. And we also know how to use them lawfully. I don't think that it's true that more guns mean more violence. I think we should be able to protect ourselves against the bad people.
Well, Chuck Holton joins me now live from Chicago. Chuck, you really have to feel for those people in that community that are under siege, but I'll tell you, I'm very happy and encouraged to see that they're being proactive about protecting themselves.
Yeah, they really are, Grant. I'm standing here in front of City Hall, downtown Chicago, and you spend a lot of time down here. You know that this area is well-to-do, it's beautiful, it's well-kept, and, well-policed. But only about 4 miles south of here is that neighborhood I drove through yesterday. And I'll tell you, I was driving around that neighborhood for several hours listening to the police scanner. And it was just shooting after shooting, blackmail with a firearm, assaults, just non-stop. And you could just sit on the main thoroughfares and watch police cars zooming one way and the other with their lights and sirens running. because that place is without a doubt a war zone. It's just incredible the contrast between that place and right here where Mayor Emanuel's office is.
So, Chuck, let me ask you, I had urged Mayor Emanuel to show up and hear Rhonda Ezell speak at the Greater Rock Missionary Baptist Church. Clearly, he didn't show, did he?
No, he wasn't there. It was interesting, the people who were there, how many of them talked about that the gun laws in Chicago turned them from law-abiding people into criminals, and not, unwittingly, because many of them have guns that were passed down to them or whatever. Actually, most of them I spoke to, even the old women, they say, yeah, I got a gun in my closet, and I know it's illegal, but I'm not going to turn that thing in because that's the only thing I have to try to keep myself safe. And, Rhonda Ezell is doing a great job in fighting City Hall. She's won 2 landmark cases against the city of Chicago to allow them to get a gun range in the city so that they don't have to go outside the city to go and train, which for some of those people would be prohibitive. But there still is not a gun range in the city, and that's at least not one open to the public. So they've won the battle, but they're still fighting the war.
All right, so the other part of information I took away from your piece was that they've taken security into their own hands there, and that they are actively trying to make sure that the criminals don't show up in the church, which there is a history of happening in Chicago. Yeah. You and I have friends that actually go into churches and help churches do this very thing. Again, another refreshing piece of information to see that the Greater Rock Missionary Baptist Church is doing that.
That's right. I talked to the pastor of that church, went to the service there yesterday morning, and they said, I told him, hey, if you go to City Hall, there's big signs all over the place that say no guns allowed inside. How come I don't see one of those on the door of your church? And he said, because that's stupid, because that just advertises for people to come in and rob us, and they have had problems with that. The criminals will wait until the offering has been taken up, and then they'll come in and literally, rob the church. But these guys have a plan. They train according to that plan, and they lock the doors of the church as they're taking the offering until the offering is secured, and then they open the doors back up. So if you show up late for church, you might have to stand outside for a while and wait until the offering has been taken.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, you don't get any lower than robbing a church. That's about as low as it gets when it comes to thieving. Look, I know you're standing right outside City Hall there. Mayor Rahm Emanuel, over and over and over again, Chuck, we have asked him to come on this program. We've asked him that we'd come meet with him. We asked him to come to the Carry Guard Conference and sit down and talk with us. At most, he never even responds to us, much less getting a no. I'd love for you to go in there and see if they'll talk to us. You got any plans to do that?
Yeah, when we're done today, I'm going to walk in there and just try to say, look, we seriously want an interview with the mayor. There's got to be a process for that. He does media events, so let's work and show us how to work through the process. We'll do whatever. We'll jump through whatever hoops we have to do to get in front of the mayor. And if they just say a flat no, that's not typically what happens. Normally, they just run you around in circles. And they've gotten pretty good at that, as you know. So I'm going to give it a shot. I got my GoPro camera here, and I'm ready to go.
At least running around in circles, we'd get some exercise from that. We haven't even gotten that. We've got flat out no response whatsoever from him. So, hey, my man.
What are you saying? You saying I need exercise?
No, you're looking good as always, pal. Always looking good. Hey, thank you for the work you're doing there. I think it's an important story that needs to be told. And we will talk again tomorrow. We'll get an update on how it goes with Mayor Emanuel from you.
All right, brother.
All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. Chuck Holton live for us in Chicago. Dana Lash will join us at the top of the next hour. I want to run all of this by her as well, too. When you look at last week, 14 people murdered in Chicago, 40-something shot. This weekend, 7 people murdered, 25-something shot. It is out of control, the violence there, and still, Mayor Rahm Emanuel, with his armed security, doesn't want anyone else to be able to protect themselves, and certainly doesn't want to talk to us. We'll talk to her about that. Stick around. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Thanks for watching.
You're watching NRA-TV with Grant Stinchfield.